This is FightFans Radio.
What's up, MMA fans? Welcome to episode 48 of the MMA Pulse. It is November 7th, and we are back. Well, actually, right now it's just me. We weren't here last week. We were, I was trick-or-treating with the kids, but I don't really know what Jared was doing. And maybe that's not why he's not here. But Jared is not here, so I'm probably rolling solo tonight, though I might get bailed out by Erica behind the proverbial glass, so to speak. Just depends if she hears me drowning, she might throw a life preserver or something. Who knows? If you guys are listening to the show on FightFans Radio or Ustream, make sure to log into the chat room and yell at me or whatever you feel like doing. At least say hi first before you start yelling. If you'd like to call in, the number is 410-988-6525, and our email address is mmapulse@mmavalor.com. So what I want to talk about first is catch up a little bit on what we missed last week, and mainly the post UFC 153 drug test that the UFC conducted. Being that it was in Brazil, there was no athletic commission, so the UFC did them. And, of course, Stephan Bonnar and Dave Herman, well, they pissed hot, so to speak. Dave Herman got busted for marijuana, which was actually his second strike with that. And the UFC has ordered him to undergo some sort of treatment. Whether he's actually going to be in the UFC after this, who knows? They haven't mentioned any of that. The more serious of the two was Stephan Bonnar, who got busted for anabolic steroids. Lucky for him, he was already retiring, so his 1-year suspension that the UFC has laid down on him really doesn't matter. If you actually saw a picture of him before the fight, you can kind of guess how he was on anabolic steroids. Guy took the fight on short notice and looked like he was in the best shape of his life. But before everyone starts throwing up the red flag and saying, the UFC has a problem, I mean, yes, there is a problem, but everyone needs to kind of remember that this isn't just a MMA problem. This is actually just a sports problem right now. I mean, the baseball, even though they've gotten past the McGuires and Bonds and stuff, there's still guys getting busted all the time. I mean, I think there was at least a half a dozen busted last year in baseball for it, for some sort of banned substance. So it's not just a MMA problem. It's just a problem in general. It's everyone's trying to get that edge. Bonnar, this was his second time. So, I mean, again, I think looking at him, I don't really think anybody was too overly shocked at the outcome. But the strange thing about it is going back, I think it was like the last 8 or 9 opponents for Anderson Silva. Many of them have failed some sort of post-fight test, and it's an amazing stat to really think about it, that all these guys have, taken something. I mean, some of them weren't in performance enhancing, but nonetheless, they all got busted for something, and they all, lost to Anderson Silva. It's just this weird, quirky little fact. But I mean, Bonner's retired, so it really doesn't matter. Whatever. Um, Next up, I want to talk about this past weekend's events and kind of get into Resurrection Fighting Alliance 4 and the World Series of Fighting 1. They were both in Las Vegas, both televised, and both of them were really good events. Both had good fights. The Resurrection Fighting Alliance, they just bought out Titan, and they gained the Access TV deal that Titan had. So they were on TV for the first time, and the fights were really good. I was a little concerned with the fact that there was a ton of empty seats, especially down on the floor where the fighters would walk out. There was just a lot of just chairs there, and being it was that their first time on TV, you kind of, can give them the pass there, but someone really should have said something like, "Hey, why don't we move some fans there so it looks a little more crowded?" I mean, the cameras were on there the whole time, and the whole time all we saw was empty chairs. I mean, fans aside, like I said, the fights were really good. And then with the World Series of Fighting, I mean, I thought all around the event was good. Good commentary with Boss Rutan and Todd Harris. Of course, we'd always want to see. We always like to see Michael Chavello there, but well, at least we get Boss Rutan. The event was good. It was right on the heart of the strip there, while Resurrection was off strip. But both of these guys, now that Resurrection's got a TV deal and the World Series of Fighting's put on their first event, and they've already scheduled their second one, it's kind of putting them in position to compete for this so-called third spot in MMA. I mean, behind the UFC and Bellator used to be Strikeforce. Strikeforce used to be number 2 before they got bought out, and Bellator came along and passed them, and now that Strikeforce looks pretty much all but dead, I mean, they are going to have at least one more event in January. It looks like it's going to be January 12th, but I think a lot of people think that that's going to be their farewell event, and kind of put a stacked card on there and walk off into the sunset or something. But it really leaves that third spot, wide open for, the World Series of Fighting, having the TV deal with NBC Sports, or Resurrection having the TV deal with Access. You've got people like Legacy and Bama, One FC. I think any one of those, you put on a couple good events, get some good sign some good talent in there, and build some talent, and in no time you can see one of them being in the number 3 spot. I'd be curious to see what Erica thinks. What do you on there over there?
Yes,
behind
sir.
Behind the little glass?
Behind the curtain.
What do you think about that number 3 spot? I mean, do you have any of them behind the UFC and Bellator that kind of stand out to you? That would be.
I would agree with you. I think there's a lot of promotions right now fighting for that number 3 spot. Bellator, I think, has even closed the distance between itself and the UFC in terms of its number 2 spot. I mean, I don't think it's going to overtake number 1 or anything, but there was a point where it was the UFC, and then far, far, far down the line was Bellator. But I think the move to Spike will solidify them as a strong number 2. And as far as number 3, man, I mean, that's hard to say. World Series of Fighting is a new promotion, and there are other promotions that have been out there for a while. Maximum Fighting Championship.
Yeah, I didn't even mention them.
I'm trying to think.
Good
of the
call.
other one. Maximum Fighting Championship. What's that? Shark Fights or something like that.
Yeah, but like Shark Fights and Shine, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I think they're done.
You think they're done?
Yeah, I mean, Shark Fight's last event was almost a year ago. Oh, I think over a year ago.
Oh,
and
wow.
and you can't. I've tried to actually get a hold of them before. I think about 4 months ago, asking them, "Hey, where'd you guys go?" And I never got a response. So I'm not sure. What happened to them?
Their phones got cut off. That's what happened.
Yeah, they got repoed or something.
What's some of the other ones? So I feel like I'm missing another really big.
Well, I mean, you got Bama.
Bama,
you got
definitely.
Legacy.
That's what I was thinking of. Legacy Fighting Championships, I think.
I mean, you still got Dream that's going to actually have an event finally at the end of the year, but I mean, I think that they're going to be more like more of a novelty, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to hold events every month. I mean, you're going to get like a super event, and that's about it.
Yeah, they're not consistent enough for it to be a contender for anything. It's right. It's just kind of this. It's like a freak show on the side.
Yeah, I mean, really, I kind of think like the number 3 spot is kind of like Access TV in a way, because they've got a bunch of these smaller promotions, and they seem to be having events like 2 a month, and so it's like, while they're different promotions, it's like Access TV's got this really nice roster of the middle shows with. I mean, now that they've got then they got Legacy, they've got the Resurrection, they got Score Fighting Series. They'll have the Dream on there as well. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I mean, that number 3 spot's kind of like just rolled into like everyone else, really.
Yeah, like where everybody else is kind of on this like even level. Nobody is really doing it big enough to kind of pull away from the rest of the pack. So, yeah, I would agree with you there. But there, you can still see some. What's right below decent? What's right below decent? Because I
Feel
sometimes
like mediocrity or something.
Yeah. I mean, they're when you're when it's one of those like dry spells where it's 3 weeks between UFC events, which is few and far between that actually happens. But we just kind of went through a little dry spell just now, and it's nice to watch. MMA, even if it's not the best MMA, and
Right.
But the good thing is when you do watch like these tertiary promotions, you most of the time you get to see more finishes because the guys aren't, they're not quite as, they're swinging for the fences, and nobody has defense. So, you get to see some interesting finishes. Sometimes you get to see really terrible lay and praise where the guys get tired, but, why not? It's like going to see a crappy movie on a rainy Sunday afternoon. Why not?
Or a horrible dialogued movie that just has eye candy.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all you want to see is just shit blowing up.
Selma Hayek reading the phone book, but I'd pay money to see it, so.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people would. Well, since you're on the mic, let's you and me were kind of talking about this before we went on air about Anderson Silva and GSP. Today they had the press conference for UFC 154, and on there, Dana White basically said that if GSP were to win, that Anderson Silva is going to walk into the cage and challenge him, and I kind of like, the first thing that popped in my head was like, yeah, it's like a year too late, and I just kind of rolled my eyes and I was like, whatever. I mean, what do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's too little too late for me as a fan.
I agree.
2 years ago, I was stoked for this fight. Now, seeing what Anderson Silva has done in the last 2 years, really, even a healthy GSP without ACL surgery, I didn't really give him much of a chance, to be honest with you. I think his wrestling is really good, but we saw what a healthy Anderson Silva can do against a top-notch wrestler, and can't be taken down. Well, that first round he was definitely taken down, but that second round he just, I think he was playing possum in that first round, to be honest with you. I don't know what that was, but I don't think GSP is quite the wrestler Chael Sonnen is, and I just don't think it'd be very competitive, and we'd see two guys who, are comfortable legends, potentially, ruin that for a super fight, which I guess is the point of a super fight. But I really want to see Bones and Silva, because Bones could recover from a loss to Silva. I mean, it'd be Anderson Silva.
Well, but and that makes that fight to me makes more sense. I mean, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, whatever, both of the divisions, both the welterweight and the middleweight division, was screaming for a contender. I mean, there wasn't a long line of contenders in each one of the divisions. And so a super fight was like, yeah, let's make it happen. But now, I mean, the middleweight's got, 3 or 4 guys that are there. The welterweight division's been on hold for, ever, it seems like. And to put guys like, the winner of Campman and Hendricks on hold, and the guys behind him, just to have a super fight, and one that I don't even know if GSP really wants. I mean, Anderson Silva fought at light heavyweight and just dominated there. I mean, 3 fights, 3 first-round finishes. It makes much more sense for that fight than to have him move down and GSP move up for a fight that has no title shot. Nothing. It's a super fight just to make a super fight. But if you have him go to light heavyweight, you can actually have him fight for the title.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that would be the interesting part to have. Has the UFC ever had anybody who held 2 titles at once?
Not at the same time.
See, and that would be, wouldn't that be the perfect cap for Anderson Silva? Wouldn't that just be amazing for him to go up to 205, challenge John Jones for the belt, win the belt potentially? I think there's still some issues that Anderson Silva would have with John Jones. Pretty much the same problems everybody has. But,
right.
Beats John Jones, has both the belts, and then says, I'm done. I've accomplished everything I possibly can accomplish. There is nothing I can do at this point that would be even better than this. And just call it quits. I think that would be awesome. I mean, the man is 37. I really don't want to see him go the way of Chuck Liddell, where he's,
his chin catches up to him.
Yeah, his chin catches up to him, or yeah. I mean, I just don't want to. I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him lose.
I mean, the really fighters are notoriously horrible for going out on top. I mean, they always think they can do one more. I mean, you don't see too many fighters that have left the sport on a win, especially champions. I mean,
yeah.
They have that belt and they want to keep going. I mean, yeah, imagine if he stepped up, fought Jones, beat Jones, held both belts up in the air and said, I'm done. I mean, he would have to basically say, well, you come over here and now you're in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it would be a huge fight. It would be a huge story. And it would have title implications. It would have relevance. Not let's fill up a stadium and put 2 guys at a catch weight.
Well, which fight do you think would sell better, though? I think the better fight, I agree with you, the better fight is Silva Bones. But do you think GSP and Silva would sell better? I guess it depends on where they would have it at, I guess, huh?
Yeah, it would probably sell better. Pay-per-view wise, it'll probably be, it doesn't really matter. I think they're going to try to put it in a stadium. I think you probably get more people with GSP there.
Right.
Just because he's more of a likable still, I just don't see when Anderson Silva beat Stephen Bonner, the first thing out of everyone's mouth was they wanted to see John Jones. So right now, that's what everyone wants. So it could conceivably, sell the place out. I mean, they sell. What was the pay-per-view that they did, the Rogers Center that had 55,000? I mean, that was GSP versus
Wasn't that Kaz? Was that the Rogers Center? Oh no, that was or Shields. It was either Kaz or Shields.
Yeah, but I mean, that fight is not as big as Jones Silva.
But I've heard that they're having.
I think they do fine.
I think they're having a hard time selling out the fight that's coming up in a little less than 2 weeks. The GSP Condit fight. I've been reading articles about something about the ticket prices possibly being a little too high.
Well,
which is never good. It's never good for the president.
They probably are too high. I mean, I've had conversations with people, just as early, I think the last time I had it was for 148. I mean, I've gone to events in Vegas before and paid tickets, and the ticket prices were at least double what they were for 148 than they were for all the other ones. And it's a sign of the UFC's, I wouldn't call it greedy, but it's like they're overpricing it, in my opinion. And I thought it was just Vegas, because Vegas people just throw money like it's grows from a tree there. But I have heard rumblings that the ticket prices everywhere are more expensive, and I actually just looked at the prices for the finale. And while the highest ticket price isn't as high as say a pay-per-view, but still the cheapest ticket is $75.
Wow.
And that's for general admission standing, basically. I mean, $75 for a free card? Who would want to go see that?
Yeah, not I. That's for sure. And and let's not gloss over the fact that and this was also something we talked about before we went on air. I'm not sold that GSP is a shoo-in to win this fight against Carlos Condit. I think coming off of such a devastating injury that is, your ACL is a pretty serious injury. I know he went through rehab. He said the rehab was tough. Maybe that's for, television or whatnot. But being able to come back from that and be as explosive as he was before the injury, I don't know if he'll be quite the same fighter. That doesn't mean that he won't still be a dominant fighter, because maybe he'll be able to adjust and create a different game plan for himself. But Carlos Condit is a fairly serious opponent. I would probably say one of the bigger challenges GSP has had for the title in quite a while. I mean, we were able to convince ourselves that Koscheck was a threat, or that Jake Shields, who punches like a 14-year-old schoolgirl, was a threat.
Hey, they punch hard.
They do. Their form sucks, but they do. They
Yes.
They punch very, very hard. Who else did he fight? It was Koscheck, Shields. I feel like I'm missing one other one that we were like.
He fought Fitch.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not. These people aren't serious. We're never really serious challenges to George St. Pierre's title. But what we saw Carlos Condit do since he's been in the UFC is mature as a fighter. He was already a person who had never lost a championship fight, but now he's matured as a fighter, and he's figuring out game plans. He's figuring out his strengths. So I think there's a potential upset here with Carlos Condit. So all this GSP versus Silva talk might just be premature, unless the UFC plans to do it anyway, whether he wins or loses, which, I still think it will sell. I don't know if it'll stadium sell, but it'll still sell. So I don't know. Oh, and I also think, if GSP wins, GSP Silva definitely, no doubt, in my mind whatsoever, sells out at a soccer stadium in Brazil. No problem.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
no
I mean,
problem.
if they decided to do that, that would easily sell. I mean, they sell out, right away in 25,000 stadium. You put it in a soccer stadium with with the two of the probably four top guys, and yeah, it would definitely sell. Going back to GSP and his injury, I definitely think that's the X factor. I mean, anytime you have an injury that bad, you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, he might go out there and look better than what he did before because he had all that time to train. He might go out there and look sluggish. We just don't know. And going out there and fighting such a tough guy, it's going to be tough to really judge just how good he is now, or if the injury is bothering him or anything like that. It's hard.
Wow. Yeah. No. You're absolutely right, and I really do feel like people are overlooking Carlos Condit in all of this. They are, they think that it feels like people think that GSP is just going to walk in. He's going to be the old George St. Pierre. He's going to take him down and lay on top of him for 5 rounds. And I just, I'm not saying that definitely won't happen, but I think there's a greater opportunity for Carlos Condit to capitalize on the fact that George St. Pierre is coming off of such a long layoff off of such a crucial injury, and in the way that he has matured in the last couple of years. He may give George St. Pierre a run for his money. I tell you this much: if that fight ends early, it's because Carlos Condit ended it early, not because of George St. Pierre.
I don't think I could predict a finish from GSP. I think if he wins, it's by decision.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I mean, Condit's not the easiest one to finish, and so I don't see it happening. I think that if there is a finish, I agree with you, it would be Condit winning.
And it might be Condit winning on the ground. I'm actually seeing that as being I think that GSP's stand-up will probably be a little bit too much for Condit. I think GSP is going to run into a problem with his takedowns and grappling, and I think that Condit might be able to exploit some of those weaknesses and finish the fight on the ground. So that's what I'm calling. You heard it here first on MMA Pulse. I'm calling it.
Well, before we close things out, I want to tell everybody about a contest that's happening on MMAValor.com right now. The UFC, along with Anchor Bay, for the last 2 years, this will be the third year, has put out this box set of fights called the UFC Ultimate Fight Collection. This year is the 2012 box set, and it's this jam-packed box of 200 fights over 50 hours across 20 discs, and basically it's from UFC 132 to UFC 147. And I was lucky enough to do a review of one, look it over, and now I'm giving one away. So if you go to the website, you'll see the link there. All you got to do is tell the website, however you want to call it, what your favorite fight through that time frame was. Simple as that. Put it in the comments. Tomorrow is the last day. Tomorrow I'm going to pick a winner. This thing's worth $100 if you go to Amazon or UFC.com. It's a must for any MMA fan. So definitely go and check that out. I mean, it's got like 4 to 7 fights from each event between that time. I mean, it's an awesome box set, and definitely something you guys want to check out. Other than that, make sure you guys follow the show on Twitter. It's at the MMA Pulse. You can follow me at Josh Wood MMA. I'm not going to give you Jared's because he's not here and I don't like him right now. Follow FightFans Radio and MMA Valor on Twitter as well. And we will be back next week. And if Jared is not back, I'm going to kick his ass and find a replacement. Yeah, I said it. Other than that, thanks. Thanks for listening. Later.